Welcome aboard, the captain said. Who are you? My name is Lemuel Gulliver. I'm an Englishman and I've been away from home for many months now. The ship I was traveling on was shipwrecked several months ago, but I survived and came to a strange land, a place no one has ever heard of. I'm familiar with all the islands in this part of the world, the captain stated with pride. Describe the country you speak of, for I surely have visited it. Well, Commander, I've spent the last few months in Lilliput, a land inhabited by miniature people, Gulliver explained, showing the tiny animals he was carrying with him so as to prove himself sane. The captain and crew were astounded by the sight, and the little else was spoken of on board the ship for days. Everyone wanted to hear Gulliver's fantastic tales, and they asked him countless questions about Lilliput and Blefuscu after a few more weeks of sailing. Overcoming several storms and other dangers, they finally arrived in England. Once ashore, Gulliver gave the captain a cow, a ship, and a purse of Blefuscudian coins. Then they rushed home to surprise his family. Papa, the son shouted when he saw him on the doorstep. Mama, come see, Papa is back. His little daughter cried when he saw him. My dearest husband, cried his wife, running to meet him. I thought you were dead, she exclaimed, overjoyed to embrace him after so long. My dearest wife and darling children, Gulliver greeted them. I had the most incredible adventure while I was away. I came across some extraordinary lands and people. And so, he told them all about Lilliput and Blefuscu and their tiny inhabitants, as well as many adventures in those lands. The children listened to his stories as if they were wonderful, fanciful fairy tales, but his wife looked at him pretty worriedly. To prove he was neither lying nor crazy, Gulliver showed his wife and the children tiny animals he had brought back with him. Not funny. The gold coins, and even the portrait of the Emperor of Blefuscu. The doctor went back to the peaceful life he had once led, but he couldn't help but wonder whether there were more unknown worlds out there, just waiting to be discovered. And his natural curiosity soon led him to set off on another journey. The ship was boarded and was called the Adventure, and Gulliver reflected that no other name could have been better suited for his hopes and dreams. They had a good voyage for several weeks. The members of the crew spent their days playing cards and going about their normal chores, and business was prosperous in all the harbors where they docked and made provisions. But one day the wind ceased. The captain and an experienced seaman assembled the crew, saying, The calm sea bodes nothing but ill, my good men. Prepare yourself for a fierce storm tomorrow. And he was right. A monsoon, a terrible southern wind, bearing heavy rains and a dangerous gale, began to set in the following day. Lower the sails. Jibe. The deck was a frenzy of shouting as the crew ran up and down, doing its best to brave this terrible hurricane. In spite of all the seamen's efforts, however, the ship veered off course and soon found itself at the mercy of the waves. No one could tell in what part of the world they were. 3 days later, when they still hadn't gotten back on course, land, ahoy, shouted a sailor from the topmast. Let's head for the coast, ordered the captain. 2 oars were saved, and so they did. They cast anchor just off the bay, and the captain ordered a dozen men, including Gulliver, to lower themselves a boat and set off to explore this unknown land. When they came to the land, the men saw no sign of inhabitants, nor any source of fresh water, so they decided to return to the ship. Gulliver, who had wandered from the group to explore the surrounding areas, was about to rejoin his companions when he saw them running for dear life, followed by a man of disproportionate height. A giant! Somehow managing to reach their boat, the sailors rowed towards the ship with all their might, heedless of the fact that Gulliver had been left behind. What shall I do now? The terrified doctor wondered. Without thinking, he ran as fast as he could in the opposite direction of the giant, in hopes of putting at as much distance as possible between himself and the huge men. See, this is how the Lilliputians must have felt when they first saw me, reflected Gulliver, who by then had left the coast behind and had come to a meadow. His surroundings were bizarre. Blades of grass as tall as the lampposts back in England. Flowers resembling large umbrellas, and trees so tall that Gulliver couldn't see their tops. Where am I? Gulliver wondered as he stopped to catch his breath. What place is this? Can I really have discovered a new country that no one knows about? I wonder what peculiarities it has in store for me. He decided to continue exploring, and after walking through the tall grass for over an hour, came to the end of the meadow, only to discover that it had been cultivated a field. It must be wheat, reflected Gulliver, though he had never seen stalks that size. The harvest was ripe, and the wheat stalks as tall as trees were laden with kernels large enough to break his head open if they had fallen on him. Proceeding with caution, Gulliver crossed the field only to find himself in front of a fence as tall as a building. It was impossible to climb over. As he emerged from his hiding place, he suddenly heard a terrible noise so loud that at first he thought it was thunder, and the giant that Gulliver had seen near the sea was striding through the cornfield, the ground beneath his feet shaking as if an earthquake. Gulliver realized the giant must be the owner of the wheat field, returning home, perhaps to tell his wife all about his adventures after the odd encounter with Gulliver's companions. Terrified of being seen, Gulliver hid in the grass. But the giant appeared shortly after, peering carefully through the wheat stalks as he reaped them with an enormous scythe. Pretty. Look at the pictures. Carter. I'm uploading these for Hope so she can listen to them. A single blow from the enormous scythe would kill me, Gulliver thought. More frightened than ever, he hid himself deep among the wheat stalks, hoping to be invisible to the eyes of the mammoth creature, as if it were an insect. The giant, however, called out in a loud voice, and soon Gulliver heard the ground shaking beneath the heavy tread of more giants, all carrying scythes. You know what a scythe is? Huh?
Yeah.
You want me to show you or not? There's a picture.
Yeah, read.
Do you know what it is?
Yes, no, go.
Make haste, you lazy bones, cried the giant. We don't have all day. Gulliver imagined them to be laborers busy harvesting the wheat, while the first giant was the owner of the field. I have to escape, Gulliver thought. Even if I were to somehow escape the giant's notice, I would still be harvesting along with wheat stalks. So he ran towards the edge of the field, where he found an immense ditch. To Gulliver, it looked like an endless river.